everyone. I'm Melissa McAllister.
And I'm Dr. Lauren Fitzgerald, and you're listening to The Made Fitz Show.
So for years, we have dedicated ourselves to giving others the tools to feel their absolute best through the power of health, fitness, and nutrition coaching, as well as both Western and functional medicine.
Each week on The Made Fitz Show, we're going to talk about everything from health trends, nutrition, topics like HRT and medical weight loss, self-care, wellness hacks, different workouts, fasting, our favorite recipes, and more.
We promise that The Made Fitz Show will be educational, entertaining, but most importantly, worth listening to each week. Now, with small, dedicated changes, you can live a healthier, more heart-filled life. We're excited to show you it's possible with the right strategies that are simple to adopt.
We are a certified nutritionist and a board-certified medical doctor who have a combination of over 50 years in the health and fitness world and are passionate about empowering others to take the leap and live their healthiest, happiest lives by using the tools we give in this podcast.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Made Fitz Show. So this is actually going to be our second episode of our back and forth banter. Truth be told, her and I love to do these because it's just really us catching up with one another. And I have to tell you, Lauren, that I was eating breakfast this morning, made the fatal mistake of asking Mick, what are some topics that Lauren and I could talk about? So I got about a 45-minute lecture. And I just was like, no, bullet points. But he did give me one really good one that I thought would be great to start our banter off, because you and I are both experiencing this right now. And I think we can really kind of highlight it. And of course, he has his own opinion, which would offend people. But let's
true Mick fashion.
True Mick fashion. He's just brutally honest. But
yes.
Location. You and I both right now are in kind of remote locations outside of our home, because, we consider Texas still home, and you consider St. Charles home. But right now you're in Florida, and right now I'm in Mexico. Let's just talk about location and how important it is, because can you admit, because Mick has said many times, every time, and you probably see it on my face right now, he goes, it's like you're pregnant. He says, you just have this glow about you whenever we're here in Mexico. He goes, there's just something about being here. He goes, I can tell you're super happy. And I've said it before on social media and on podcasts that I feel healthier here for sure. And I could probably admit that I'm happier. So can you kind of share your experience of, being remote, being a snowbird in Florida right now? And how do you feel about that change being away from your home?
Absolutely. I was actually, so on my 24-mile bike ride that I went on this morning, I love listening to podcasts on my bike rides, and it's gorgeous today here. And so I ride 12 miles up to Indian Rocks and then get a coffee and breakfast and then ride back. And so I was listening to podcasts, and the Mind Pump guys, y'all know they're one of my favorites. They were talking about how we thrive when we get outdoors more. And one of the Mind Pump guys had just gotten back from Mexico, and he could already tell just being outside, getting exposed to light and being outdoors and walking outdoors barefoot, that kind of stuff. And I was like, yes, as I'm bicycling, in this gorgeous weather, and, I'm here for another 6 weeks. I'm here until the end of April. And then I go back to the Chicagoland area for the nice part of the year for them. But I think I underestimated how powerful location is for me, because as you know, I've lived in some different kinds of locations. That I think the worst weather that I have lived in is definitely Chicago or Misawa, Japan. Northern Japan was actually pretty terrible too, because it gray like 9 months out of the year. So at least in Chicago, the summer is beautiful in the fall. So I would say Misawa is the worst place I've lived. And definitely I've lived on 2 different coasts before. So, I was in Southern California. Now I'm in the Gulf part of South Florida. I'm 100% more of a Florida girl than California now. Yeah, I know. It's because the warmer weather, I like the warmer weather, and the water is warmer too, but it makes a huge difference in my mood in a massive way. And just, it goes back to, I think that God designed us to be outdoors. We were not supposed to be inside. And so we're supposed to see the sun, but I I challenge people that, you know, think, oh, I'm going to do that when I'm retired. Why would you wait till you're retired? I mean, granted, I realize that, you know, kids throw a wrench in some people's journey, but man, so many people are homeschooling now. Man, pick up and go south where you get sun. I mean, I thrive in the sun.
Yeah. Oh, that was exactly Mick's, where I was said that Mick might offend people because, you know, he's like, if you're not happy where you are, he goes, why would you not pick up and leave? And I started giving scenarios, being the Melissa that I am. I'm like, well, I'm a teacher and, you know, it's hard to find jobs, or, you know, I have family here and stuff like that. And he, you know, he's like, so.
Yeah, exactly. So,
but, you know, and that's what Mick and I did when we were, gosh, Tanner was 5 and I think Taylor had just turned 4. And that's when we decided to pick up and move to Hawaii, because we needed to get out of Spokane, Washington, which in and of itself is a beautiful state and beautiful 4 seasons and stuff. But I had realized at that time that, you know, self-diagnosed seasonal affective disorder, those long cold months really got to me. So happy in the summer. And we tried to go to Australia because we had visited Australia and we're like, we want to live here. They would not let us in. Like, no, our unemployment's too high. We're not taking, which maybe America needs to.
I was going to say, crazy how countries won't just let. Yeah. Okay. We're not going to go there, right? This is not a political banter.
No. But so we then decided California, Florida, Hawaii. And we barely, I mean, we had saved up like $10,000, I think, and just moved to Hawaii. Never
Y'all
even
moved to Hawaii with 2 children and only $10,000.
Yeah. And no job in place, no place to live. So that's where Mick's mindset is. He doesn't say things because he's a jerk. It's because he's done it. You know, he's like, but he shares that in the hotel room that we were staying at when he was job hunting, that he would lay up in the middle of the night in tears, like, what the F did I do? I just brought my whole family here. I'm having a hard time finding a job. We don't have a place to live. We're on limited funds. And of course he made it work. He's amazing that way, but it was a hard decision. And my parents were mad at me for picking up the kids, but we were so happy in Hawaii. So it saved our marriage because we just weren't thriving in Washington. And I know a lot of it had to do with the weather, as crazy as that sounds, the family and weather.
But crazy at all.
Yeah. And you're totally right. You know, with homeschooling or just, you know, man, if it's possible, if you really, where you're at, you're just like, you know, you just keep hoping for the day that you can move somewhere that you'll be happy. Number one, location isn't the only thing that's going to make you happy. My mom used to always say, because I'm a Wizard of Oz fan, there's no place like home. So she would always remind me that it's not necessarily, you know, you can't go seek happiness. It needs to be in your home. And she was right, but living in Hawaii was great. And, you know, and I do like Texas more than I do Washington State. And I do like Mexico more than I like Texas. But it took us 10 years of visiting Mexico to realize that this was a place that we could actually live. And you're sharing how long you're in Chicago. We're only here for about 2 more weeks. And I know we've picked the right place because every time I'm here, it's harder to leave. And so we actually talk about selling that Texas home when the market goes up again, because it's a huge, beautiful home that takes a lot of money to upkeep. And we don't feel like we even need to be there. You know, I mean, of course, we'll be in Texas for the kids. We could live in the shop or one of our rentals, but that big, beautiful home, I don't think we're going to keep it.
No, I mean, I think too many people, and you're obviously not living beyond your means, because financially you wouldn't sell it because you have to financially. It would just make sense because there's 2 people in a big house, and it's ridiculous to spend that much of your finances on maintaining a house that y'all can be happy in something smaller. But I think so many people live beyond their means. And if you just realize, like, the things that are going to make you happy are not the handbags and the brand name clothing and the brand name car and whatnot. Like, Stop living beyond your means. Stop wasting money on stupid Starbucks every day and getting your nails done, and start being financially smart, and like recognize like, look, my happiness, I only get one life. And if I am miserable 5 out of every 7 days, and sometimes 7 out of every 7 days, based on, where you live and maybe the weather that of that time of year, you and only you have the responsibility to change that. Otherwise, that is going to be your destiny. You're going to be miserable, and it's going to be a cycle that's harder and harder to get out of every single year.
Yeah.
So it's, man, yeah, don't get me started. But again, people look at my life and I mean, I'm kind of a gypsy. And it's, that doesn't sound appealing for a lot of people, but I will tell you, I mean, the location where you live really has a lot to do with, everything else, for sure.
It really does. And segueing into both you and I, like you guys would giggle if, she was on took a long bike ride, and then I messaged her back. She's like, now I'm on a walk. I'm like, well, I get it. I took 2 walks yesterday, so I understand, I mean, I don't hit your steps, but for me, I've been around 15,000 here the last couple weeks, and that's good for me because I'm taking 2 walks, which, equal about 7,000 steps a piece. And when you messaged me, I was on a nice long walk with Mick. So we're outdoors a lot. And I did get a message yesterday from a lady that says, you're so cautious and you take such good care of yourself. She goes, why do I never see you wearing sunglasses? And I know that you and I both love the sun. And I saw a story of yours the other day where someone had asked you about sunscreen, and you said that, you put some on your face, but you don't put it on your body. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about sunglasses and sunscreen and all of that stuff and your views on it. And then, of course, I will share my views as well.
Yeah, I just got finished being around. So I went to see a mutual friend of ours, Rachel, or Rachel because of me. But Rachel is Dr. McKenzie from the MAC in Edmond, Oklahoma. And she and I were 2 anesthesiologists that worked together when I was an anesthesiologist in Oklahoma. She still practices anesthesia and owns a med spa, but she's one of my dearest friends. And so her daughter is a senior, and her daughter's boyfriend, they'll end up getting married. Like they've been together for 4 years. They're going to be high school sweethearts and have we've been married for 50 years and we met in 8th grade and Carlton Landing. So anyway, so Bentley is the name of the boyfriend. Bentley's grandparents transplanted from Michigan to Fort Myers, Florida 3 years ago. Another reason, location. And they're like, we just realized we're so much happier down here. So I'm down there, and the grandmother's a nurse, and they have changed their health by changing their nutrition in a massive way in the last year and a half. So they're asking me all of the questions. And one of the things they asked me about was sunscreen as well. And so my take on sunscreen is, so I full truth here. I am not perfect. I do toxic things. Like I will, eat ice cream once a week. And I will, every now and I eat out maybe once a week. My sunscreen on my face is not the all organic natural kind that we sell at Larimar Med. It's the medical grade that has the ingredients in it. They're not the greatest, but my skin gets hyperpigmented on my face when I get in the sun. And that was from years of being on birth control. I was on birth control for 10 years. And I think that just triggered something in the melanin in my skin on my face. And so when I'm in the sun and I don't wear sunscreen, the hyperpigmented spots get worse. I mean, you still see them, they're still there, but they're definitely not as severe if I were to wear no sunscreen. But it goes back to my belief, like, humans were not indoors all the time. Humans have been outdoors. Humans did not have this high rate of skin cancer for most of our existence. It wasn't until we started adding all of these different toxic agents, fake food, fake toxins, in our makeup, in our hair care, our skin care, our clothing, all of this. And I think it's just a combination. I don't think it's just one thing, but I think that's why our skin cancer rates are so high. It has minimal to do with sun. And because we've worshipped the sun as humans for, thousands and thousands of years. So I try my best to not get burnt. I have, just like you said, was it on one of our podcasts where you ease yourself into the morning sun. So you're getting your baseline coat. So that's kind of what I did. And when my parents came here for vacation, they wanted to go actually lay out on the beach. My dad, when I say they, I mean my dad, because
Your dad. I could see
my
that.
dad, both my parents, and that is definitely my dad. So that's when I got, extra coat of dark, but I didn't get burnt because I've got a nice baseline tan. So I do not use any sunscreen except for my face, but I don't use the all organic natural kind. I use the Elastin brand that we have at Larimar Med. And that's what I've been doing now for quite a few years. I don't remember the last time I put sunscreen on my body, except for maybe like my first vacation of the winter time. If I go, I've been in Chicago and I'm like lily white, I'll get some sun bum and put some sunscreen on. But what do you do?
Well, so for different reasons, I do put sunscreen on my face too. Just because my nose tends to burn and peel. It's very susceptible. And so, but I don't wear any sunscreen in the mornings ever. And then in the afternoons, I really actually try not to just lay out in the sun here, because if I do, it's maybe 30 minutes on each side, listening to a podcast or, reading my book or doing work. If it's a beautiful day, if like we have guests and they want to be out in the sun for hours and hours, I will probably spray. And I try to do, I have I think it's, what is it? Is it beach bum? That the yellow, with the ape on it, the monkey on it. And I will spray it, but my skin, I've learned, and I believe, you've got the birth control story. I've got the tanning bed story. I abused tanning beds really when I lived in Hawaii. How stupid is that? But because I was in I was doing a lot of fitness videos and stuff, and the tanner I looked, the better I looked on camera. I didn't care. So I was, living on the beach with my kids, and then also in tanning beds like crazy. And so I got diagnosed with Grover's disease, which is usually an older man's disease, and it's linked to electric blankets and tanning beds and, sweating a lot and those kind of things. And I live with an electric blanket. I've since then quit using them. Anyway, sweat, my skin is, it's like I'm almost allergic to my own sweat, because I'm not a big sweater, this, but I sweat between my shoulder blades. And so if I'm wearing a sports bra or anything, and I work out or I go out there, I get a breakout of some sort, and sunscreen agitates that. So I try to be, I don't want to put anything on my skin that's going to agitate on top of the sweat. So you just have to be very careful about rinsing myself off and stuff. But I try not to just put sunscreen on, because I'm very careful if I'm going to be on the sun for a long time. I do put it on my face just like you do. But for short bouts, or definitely early in the morning when I walk, which is usually, I guess, around 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm out for about an hour, I don't wear sunscreen. And I don't burn either, just like you. I've acclimated myself to I can't remember the last time I was pink. I've done a really good job about that. And I see my skin. I was actually looking at pictures the other day. I was creating an ebook, looking at old pictures, and my skin does look better now than it did, I'd say 6-7 years ago.
100%.
Because I'm trying to, because I'm conscious of, and I'm taking things like green tea. Plug here. Dr. Lauren sells a body lotion, Elastin, and I've been using that. And I know if you're going to put something on your skin, it needs to be high quality. It's like you said in your story a long time ago, which made me try it. It's not the cheapest, but I use it very, actually, I don't know if this is good or not, Dr. Lauren, but I put like a regular lotion, and then I'll put some of that in it so that I can make it go okay a little bit. I've been using that too, and I do think that helps. It's a really good quality lotion.
Transform. It's for the crepey skin, and I put it on my chest. I use it daily as well.
Yeah, so that it's not just nothing against Aveeno.
Yeah, there's a lot against Aveeno.
But if I'm going to use something, I want to use something that has the science to back it up. So I've been using that, and I think that helps as well. But it is my skin, even though I use less sunscreen, I just make sure not to burn. I'm real careful. That you guys, full disclosure, our phones there's my kitty. Our phones, at least iPhone has, the weather app. And there's such detail in there, like the UV index is amazing on there. So I get to look and I can see when the UV index is at its highest, it gets up to like 9 here and stuff where that's extremely high. And I will stay out of the sun at that time, but when it's, 0, 2, 3, sometimes 4, I'm like, I'm good, and I'll, if it's a beautiful day, I'll try to be out when the UV index isn't so dang high. And that's a really helpful tool as well, because that's really what, it's the UVs, you overdo the UVs, you're going to have consequences. But if you're careful about that, I think you're perfectly fine enjoying the sun, absorbing the sun, getting all the nutrition from the sun. We need it. I mean, I think that's why we're both so happy.
Yes. 100% is. So
now,
when do you wear sunglasses?
That's I don't like sunglasses. I'll be honest. Mick wears them all the time. He's so much better than me. And I'll be honest. So I got that message, and my ego, my first instinct was to show me a study that tells me that the sun's bad for my eyes. And so I instantly went to PubMed and I found a study that said it's bad for my eyes. And I'm like, okay, maybe I should wear it sometimes. But I try to wear a hat instead. Or again, I don't wear sunglasses in the morning, but in the heat of day, I'm definitely not trying to be, on top of the water and all of the rays that come off the water and stuff like that. So I try, but I'm really not too wonderful at wearing sunglasses.
Well, but let's go back to the study that I literally, the more and more that time passes, the more and more I'm like, so what if a study says, because like, I feel like a large majority of these studies are funded. They're biased and funded. And it's like, I don't know. I just, the more and more I learn, I'm just like, so I don't wear sunglasses unless I am going to people watch at dude, literally. Okay. So here's the thing. So Monday nights. So this is for anyone that listens that ever comes to St. Pete Beach for vacation. So on Treasure Island is the beach just like north of St. Pete Beach. So where I live, I can walk one direction and get to St. Pete Beach in 10 minutes and the other direction in Treasure Island Beach in like 8 minutes, right? So on Treasure Island, there is this great live music venue called Katiki, okay? And they have music literally 7 days out of the week. And on Saturdays and Sundays, they have people during the day and at night, okay? So on Monday nights, they have the same band that plays every single Monday. And it's like their hopping night. I mean, they're always, not always pretty packed, but most nights, like for sure Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but Monday is like their most packed. It is the best people watching on the planet. Okay. So I may or may not go, and either I'm by myself or with Ty, and we may or may not come up with nicknames for people. And I will tell you the amount of really drunk people that are may or may not be high and smoking like chimneys. It's literally all there is. And so that's why I wear sunglasses.
I love that. I have to tell you, there's a game that Mick and I play all the time. We go out to dinner, we'll see a couple and we'll make up their story, this is their first date. She's really uncomfortable on this first date. She's thinking of a way to get out of it. Or, they've been married for 23 years and, he's a slob and she can't. There's so much fun making up these fun stories, of people. So I get it. I get it.
There's this one guy that looks, he's a white guy, but he's super tan and he kind of looks like CeeLo Green. So he's CeeLo, white CeeLo. Then we've got Cambrian Hands Man. We've got, literally there.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah. No, but the day that I talked about the stories, because I wore sunglasses, someone was asking, what brand are those? I will wear sunglasses if I'm out in the middle of the day and I'm going to go on a lunchtime walk, because it is pretty bright but morning and evening, I actually don't wear it because I want those rays of sun to go into my eyeballs, because it helps, as you know, set our circadian rhythm. So
That's what I told her. I mean, you just said verbatim. She's like, and I said, because in the morning, I want my body to know you're awake. It's gotten the sunlight in my eyeballs. It's exactly to set my circadian rhythm. So
exactly. You're not supposed to look directly in the sun. But if you are in Waco, Texas on April 8th, you can look into the sun with special glasses because that's when the solar eclipse is happening. So you and I were talking about this right before we started pressing record. So you're actually going to be in the air, flying back from Cabo to Dallas, Texas. Texas, for people that don't know, there's a few different locations that are supposed to be like prime watching of the solar eclipse that's supposed to happen April 8th. And my parents and brother and I were actually just talking about this last night. Like my dad was telling me that like all of Waco was shutting down. All cops of Waco and surrounding towns are going to be on call essentially. Like they basically, you know, it's going to be crazy. So I could care less to watch a solar eclipse. I mean, it would be cool if I was in Waco at the time, but I'm not going to plan to fly to Waco to go watch that. But apparently people all over are.
Oh, it's apparently a big deal. And the last time there was one, I was here and I, sat outside and saw it and I was like, cool. But I mean, it's cool 15 seconds. you're over it. So, but I don't know. I very curious to wonder what it's going to be like when you're in the air. Cause I mean, our flight is like 2:00 and I think it's right around then that it's supposed to really get good, is right around 3 o'clock. So we'll see.
I think my dad said 1:38 Central Standard Time. So it'll be interesting if you're in the air and if you'll be able to see it or not.
Yeah. I'll let you know.
Yeah, please. Yeah, but if you're gonna be watching that, you should wear special glasses because you can damage your eyes if you're looking at the sun during that period of time. But I'm not gonna be. So I'm gonna be here in Florida. So okay, what else do you want to banter about?
I don't know. Those were really my hot topics. I did appreciate Mick's idea of the location, since both you and I are, choosing to live in an area that's not probably best for business, but best for, our health and our hearts.
I'm trying to figure out how I want to do this next year. If I really want to open a second location, or if I just want to do it the way I'm doing it now and just actually buy a spot. I don't think I want to buy one yet. I'm just renting this condo for now, but I really like it here. Like, being in Fort Myers. Have you been to Fort Myers, which is just south of Sarasota?
I've been to Clearwater. I think St. Petersburg. And when you say Treasure Island, I feel like I've been there too, but I think that's it.
Yeah. Now, granted, Fort Myers was hit by a hurricane bad 2 years ago, and apparently, it affected their beaches, obviously. So maybe they had beautiful white beaches like we do up here in the St. Pete Beach area. But I was just like, I can't wait to get back to my own beaches because they're beautiful here. So I think I'll probably come back the same place next year. But if I'm going to open up a second Larimar Med or not, I go back and forth. Do I really want to do that? Because that's a lot of work.
It is. It is.
Otherwise, I can just see patients via telemedicine because they're already my existing patients and go from there. I don't know.
That makes me, because Mick and I had this conversation too. Like right now we are working really hard on 2 business ventures that take a lot of work and a lot of time to create more income. And one thing that, we high five each other on, and it's something that I think you can high five yourself on as well, is delayed gratification. I see instant gratification is sometimes it's great. Sometimes it's great, but the majority of the time, not being able to really just take that moment to think, like you opening up another business or moving or coming back here, all of those kind of things to weigh the options of that instant gratification or, opening up another spa, down the road. Is that something that's going to totally, make life easier for me? Is it something that's going to make life harder? Mick and I are working so hard right now and not reaping any of the benefits of what will happen, 6 months from now, 12 months from now, 10 years from now. And that's no different with exercise. It's no different with the way that we eat. It's no different with cultivating relationships. all of these things. I mean, gardening is a wonderful example of delayed gratification. You have to put up so much work before you reap the benefits. I really, when it comes to helping people in the mind space of transforming their lives, I mean, it could be business. We were both in network marketing, and that was incredible delayed gratification. You worked very, very, very hard in the beginning to have benefit later on.
No guaranteed benefit either.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that that's something that we really need to focus more on, is people really understanding and working towards the delayed gratification that comes with turning something down that you want now for something that you want later. And if you really sit down and think about the goals that you have and what you're doing, and replacing delayed gratification with that instant gratification, how much, if you just make these tiny changes, these habits, consistency, habit stacking, all of these things, that you can really make it so that you can reach these delayed gratification goals and have big things happen in your life.
Delayed gratification is something that I think every single parent should be teaching their kids. But most parents don't know how to practice it either. So how can you teach your kids something that you don't practice, because kids don't learn by listening to you. They learn by watching you. Right.
Yeah, that's so true. I always giggle, roll my eyes and giggle, because when we lived in Hawaii, we would have to, drive up to Washington to visit family and stuff. And there were no iPads. There were no, game machines. There was nothing to entertain my very small children on these really long flights. It was much harder, but it was doable. And I kind of wish today's parents almost had to struggle like that, because it's just a different scenario to sit there and have to, color with your kids, teach them patience, and have them just sit and be still for a while, and, to look at a book and all that stuff, instead of all of this instant gratification and this fancy stuff. I think that would make a huge difference in how we
translates to every aspect of life. Every aspect of life, like you just said.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole, when I was freaking 16 years old, I recognized, I think I want to be a doctor, but I also recognized that, man, that's going to be a lot of school. And I mean, I literally did the math. I mean, it was like, all right, I'm going to be in college for 4 years. And then I know medical school is for 4 years, and whatever specialty, it could be anywhere from, 3 to 5 to maybe 6 years. And I might even be 30 by the time. So I recognized, like, okay, that's a lot of schooling. I've got all my college or all my high school credits done. Let me just graduate early and go ahead and get going. But I mean, that end goal of 12 years down the road was what kept me going my entire 20s. But it paid off.
Yeah. Did you like school? Did you enjoy school? Or were you, someone that, because I enjoy learning. It depends on where. I enjoy learning at my own pace. I don't enjoy being in a classroom. But did you enjoy the school process, or did you loathe everything?
No, I actually enjoy learning way more now as post medical school and whatnot. In fact, it's funny because I just remember thinking, okay, I'm going to be 29 when I'm done with residency, and then I'll never have to, be, a student again.
Yeah.
But you're a constant student of life, or I am, and you are too. So, but no, I didn't love school, but it in high school, it came easy for me. I was always, I never made anything but A's. And then I got to UT Austin, going from small town, Midway, Texas, to UT Austin, where I literally had never made anything but A's. And I made my first D.
What's
first well, I was enrolled in the wrong calculus. I went into the engineer calculus instead of and because I skipped my senior year, I didn't do calculus in high school, and I got my world rocked, and I was humbled, and it was a good thing. I needed to be humbled because I came in way too arrogant and egotistical, thinking that, I got this, I'm smart. No, girl, you from a small town, you ain't got nothing. It was a good humbling experience for me, because I definitely, my ego was not, I didn't have problems with self-confidence in high school. I'll just say that.
Well, I'm an incredibly honest person. And when I was at ASU and I was in chemistry class, I struggled and my mom got me a tutor and everything. And I remember on the final exam, I got, if you can imagine, the teacher's assistant, the way she wrote a 4,
Okay.
she kind of went down, over, and then looped,
Okay.
that, and it looked like a 6. I got a 47 on the final, but the teacher read it as 67. And because, my other stuff was high enough, I mean, I passed, and I didn't have it was such a hard class. I should have been honest and said, I didn't pass the final by a landslide. I got a 47, but I didn't because I did not want to take
20 years later, I still feel guilty about it.
you.
Yeah.
No, chemistry was so hard for me. It was
Yeah.
such a hard class, but I don't know. And it's so funny because I have not used a single thing from that chemistry class. It's just, and here you are, doctor, and I don't know how much, and what you do today or what you've done in the last decade, how much in medical school you actually use, obviously
So
it's
undergrad is completely a scam, in my opinion. I mean, literally, like it is such. So the only class that I remember that I actually learned something from that I took on to medical school was physiology, which I mean, that's baseline of what you need to understand, right? But I mean, from chemistry to OChem to physics, like I didn't have that. Completely pointless, completely pointless.
yeah.
But med school is all, I mean, I use that on a daily basis. I mean, obviously, but yeah, no, that it was, I did not enjoy the whole learning process. I just can be honest with you. But now I mean, I was telling Rachel, I was like, I almost, because we were around everyone and they wanted me to dance. I'm like, I don't dance just on call, especially not to this kind of music. And Rachel was like, hold up, let me play some of her music. And she goes through and I'm like, really? And I'm like, actually, I really don't listen to music much anymore. When I'm listening to stuff, I'm just listening to podcasts or audiobooks. Cause I love to learn. So, and because I don't do dance fitness anymore, I'm not looking for that next song I want to choreograph to. And the kind of music I like, the words are just trash and they're poisoning our young people. And I can't contribute to that anymore, honestly. I mean, now I don't like your music either, but yours at least probably has better quality words than my hip hop. I mean,
Yeah. And I think that learning still today, I mean, I just watched something this morning my son sent to me, bless his heart. And at first I'm offended because it talked about, when you're over the age of 50. And every time I hear that, I'm like, I'm not 50. It's so weird.
Yeah.
So Nick and I just can't wrap our brains around the fact that we're in, our 5th decade. But it talked about how important skilled, I forget how he worded it, things like skateboarding or, playing tennis or something like that, pickleball, anything after the age of 50 is so important for not only your physical self, but your mental self. And that the people that live the longest are, some of the people that live the longest are, centered around Colorado, where there's all this skiing and snowboarding and mountain biking, and they're up and they're extremely active. So you have to remain, I mean, walking is great. You and I are huge proponents of walking, but you've also got to challenge your balance and your agility and, your hand-eye coordination. All of that stuff is so important as we get older.
Well, because so the boyfriend's grandparents who transplanted down here, right? So they changed their diet. They went carnivore. Now I will say I'm not anti-carnivore. There's definitely a small percent of people that thrive in doing carnivore, but it is not the perfect diet. It's not the ideal diet. It's not for everyone, right? But the grandmother reversed her type 2 diabetes and she lost 25 pounds. But she and her husband are chain smokers. And so So literally, so Rachel was kind of giving me warning, like, you know, if you want to say anything cool, I'm sure that, you know, Jamie won't mind because she's been trying to get her parents to stop smoking forever, but you play it by ear. I'm like, I'll feel for the room, but you know me, like if I ended up giving my opinion because they had shown so much discipline in not just changing their food and just eating carnivore, but like she even talked about, she was like, well, we don't buy anything with seed oils and all these things. I'm like, so y'all are, and so I literally was like, okay, I gotta ask. I mean, you've obviously shown that you have the discipline to make a major life change and have it stick for 18 months. Why are you two still smoking? Like, for real. And so then go into like, you know, you're like, you know, they're not doing any resistance training. They don't do any exercise. I'm like, so as she's reaching up for a bowl they're making something, I think a big thing of bacon. They were reaching up. I was like, see that movement, you're not going to be able to do that in a few years if you don't start moving your muscles on a regular basis. And those activities of daily life that we take for granted in our 20s, our 30s, our 40s, our 50s, once you get to 60s, those kind of things, if you're not moving your muscles and doing functional trainings, so the balance, the lifting weights, all of the things, before you know it, you're not going to be able to wipe your ass, you know? I mean,
Seriously.
So the above the 50 thing is real, and man, I still can't believe that you're 50. To be honest.
Me neither. But it's funny you say that.
Goals though. Let's be real.
I'm trying to hold up. Close this out with, you know, quickly, because to me that does segue the whole smoking thing. Before we pushed record, we talked about, you know, I just brought up really quickly you know, it was headlines. It's not a study or anything, but headlines of, you know, intermittent fasting giving you a 91% higher risk of cardiovascular. I can't even say that straight face, cardiovascular disease.
Yeah, can we talk about that? I was like, we have to talk about that today.
You know, I can't remember if it's 25 or 27% of the participants were smokers. And they're not, I wouldn't say they're intermittent fasters. Smoking suppresses appetite. And so it's not like they're these healthy people practicing not eating all day long. They're just not hungry because they're smoking all day long. And a lot of people that do smoke, that's their number one reason for not wanting to quit, because they know they'll gain weight, or they know they'll replace the smoking with hand to mouth food. And they will justify smoking because it's going to keep the weight off, which to them, you know, they'd rather, I guess, look good than feel good. So that's one of the big things about that study. There's plenty, or not even study, excuse me. It was an idea. That's really what all it was someone had an idea at a conference, and that idea, of course, made headlines because it's stirred up all of these. That's exactly what they wanted it to do. And so I'm sure you were inundated. I was inundated. And, you know, I'm here. You and I have both, I haven't changed my mind about fasting whatsoever. I have just changed my timing. I used to be 11 to 7. I am now closer, you know, 8 to Mick and I ate dinner at 4:30 yesterday. 4:30. We looked at each other and started laughing. We're like, okay, pretty soon it's going to be 2 o'clock. I mean, we eat a substantial breakfast. We eat a substantial dinner. And he gets too busy. He doesn't really snack. I'll usually get something like a shake or something, you know, in the middle of the day, smaller, and that's it. And I enjoy, because I have a big meal. I enjoy eating that big meal earlier because I feel satiated for 3 to 4 hours, and then I'm ready for bed. So it works really well. So I'm
take the audience through exactly a standard eating day for you. So, because this is a question I get all the time, and I figured that this would be a great nugget to lead them, you know, give them incentive to listen to the very end.
Yeah.
Because
yeah.
The goods.
Yeah. I love a good sunrise. So Mike and I are up by 6 to see, because the sunrise is here at 6:30. And so up by 6:30, and then we have our coffee together. A big, huge glass of water first. You know, I've had to really train Mick, because he will reach for the coffee and just drink coffee too. I always have to make him a big glass of water, and sometimes I literally have to set it in front of his cup of coffee because he just wants to drink his coffee. So big glass of water first. I think that's really important if you are a faster, to not just put, you know, coffee, especially black coffee, on an empty stomach. Have a big glass of water first. And we will work out and walk, or walk and then work out, depending on the weather. If it's a little bit cooler, we'll walk after the workout, blah, blah, blah. But then we
Right.
have breakfast around 9 o'clock, between 9 and 10. And it's
Typically eat.
yes. It's all every once in a blue moon, oatmeal, not that often. Greek yogurt or eggs is usually, and I made enough meat last night in our grill to have leftovers. So I just cut up some of the meat that we had last night, put it in with the eggs, put some guacamole on top. We had some berries with it. And he's I'm doing this is my work for the day, and he's working in the yard. And then he made a homemade spaghetti sauce. And we had leftovers. So we're going to have spaghetti again tonight for dinner. And,
Okay.
and that's really it. And like I said, snacks just vary. I mean, it could be anywhere from I had Brienne here. I used to judge her, and I told her, I said, someday I want to talk about this. So here I am talking about it. I used to judge her so hard for eating those Built bars. She eats them way more often than I do, but I was just like, all that processed, blah, blah, blah. They're pretty darn good. Actually have them, I mean, a couple of times a week, and they are in my fridge, and so maybe that's my afternoon snack, with a pear or an apple or something. Or I brought with me Epic wild caught salmon, maple salmon bars, those kind of things. So it's something that's a good protein source, a little bit of fat and a little bit of carbohydrates as a snack, and then dinner. And that's me around the clock.
When's the last time that you tracked how many grams of protein you eat on average daily?
It wasn't that long ago. It was when I was in Texas. I use LifeSum. I think that's a great app. And every once in a while I will use it to just check myself. I'm pretty steady with my weight. I'm pretty, doesn't fluctuate much, but I will check it. And I'm about, I would say, between 100 and 120, probably at 110 on average grams a day.
Okay. You should probably be eating a little bit more than that.
I mean, it's funny too, because like when Brienne came, she's really trying hard to build muscle because she's going for a pro card in July. And I noticed that. I said, I muscle gain, and she lit up. But I did. Mick looked at me and goes, did you just say that to be nice? I'm like, no, her shoulders are bigger. She's filling out her glutes. She's working so hard on it. And I said, you haven't seen me for a couple of months. I said, anything you notice? She goes, yeah, you're leaner. And I'm like, seriously? Yeah, you're a lot leaner than last time I saw you. And I'm like, I don't know why, but
walking. Hello.
Yeah.
Walking.
Another DEXA scan, just to make sure I'm maintaining my muscle. But Lauren, eating the way that I do, if you look at my DEXA scans across the years, I've always built muscle. I'm not ever losing muscle. So
right.
I do think my butt, but I'm not the best pooper. My body is a machine, and it's super healthy. I sleep like a champ, but I don't poop like a champ, and I never have. And you tried to help me with that as well. But even Mick will say, he goes, I swear you eat just the right amount of food and your body is so good at utilizing it. There's nothing left. And I'm like, I don't believe that. It's as good as an excuse as anything else, because I do eat very well. And I think I eat very balanced. And when I do go potty, it's not a huge amount. It's not like I stored it.
Right.
Who knows?
I have gotten so I was actually listening to, Max Lugavere, The Genius Life. I was listening. I was actually going to send it to you because I listened to it on my bike ride this morning, but I figured that we would talk about it, and I'll send it to you. You do need to listen to it. So he's interviewing this nutritionist that she's like in the middle of the road. I loved what she had to say, because she acknowledged the fact that there's just, there's certain camps, and you have the vegan camp, the carnivore camp, and the anti-science camp, and the wellness camp, and and it's like, look, there are millions of people that need our help, and there's not one perfect way. Like, can we focus on stopping attacking everyone? And because, there's definitely a ton of accounts now that are attacking, the people that, seed oils are bad. It's like, oh my gosh, but it's a really great podcast. And she she addressed the fact that she used to be a fan of intermittent fasting, but in her experience, and this is my experience too, I found in my own body and with a lot of my patients that menstruating females that are doing intermittent fasting the way that it is traditionally talked about, you know, not breaking your fast till 11 or 12 and then whatever, it really ends up doing more harm than good for women in their menstruating years. Men, totally different. But, you know, that is one thing that I have definitely changed. And so I consume 30 to 40 grams of protein literally in the first 30 minutes of my day. I do grass-fed whey with water and Energize. It's so yummy. I will never go back to, oh my gosh, I will never go back to just doing Energize with just water. Like it is, oh, it's so good. Do vanilla and then whatever, you know, flavor of your Energize is, it is, oh, so good. But grass-fed whey, don't do any of the stupid plant proteins. Do the grass-fed whey protein, right? So I do that while I do my Bible study and then I go work out. So I'm getting 30 to 40 grams first thing in the morning, but it's easily digestible because that, you know, it's just grass-fed whey and Energize. And then I'll make my breakfast. My breakfast is typically eggs, some sort of meat sausage. If I don't have meat sausage, then I'll add Greek yogurt, but I typically do my Greek yogurt cottage cheese at lunch. And I'll make it where it's either, you know, somewhere between, you know, 35 to 45 grams of protein. And I'll either do berries or I might do like today, I didn't have any fresh berries because I have to go to the grocery store. So I did a little bit of granola. And then dinner time, I cook a meat with typically 2 veggies. And then I'll have fruit with like kefir for dessert. And I mean, but I'm hitting 150 grams of protein every single day. And that's,
and this is where I'm gonna cut you off. And I'm gonna tell you that this is where we kind of, you know, you guys will see that we agree on 95% of things, but what you just said, I wince a little bit because when you talk about women in their menstrual, you know, their childbearing years and fasting and it messes them up. I don't think it's the fasting that's doing it. I think they've got other things going on and maybe fasting on top of it is a stressor. And so I agree with that. You shouldn't be fasting if your body is struggling to thrive. Adding that stressor on top is not great, but if you are taking great care of yourself, and I think it's a tremendous.
Yeah, because you're a great example of that because you did 11 to 7 for most of your adult life while you're menstruating. And so, again, there's always exceptions to the rule, but I think that the way most are doing it, it's creating more of a stressor than not. And
I agree. And especially the later eating. You know, and the whole going back to the study, the cardiovascular disease, people who eat later in the day tend to eat less healthy things. You know, if you've got these people that are assuming that intermittent fasting is going to help them lose all this weight and it's going to help them with their calories in, calories out, and they don't really pay attention to what they're eating, but it's just, you know, there's this 50-year-old with abs that tells me to intermittently fast. And so I'm going to start eating at noon, you know, and I'm going to stop at 8 and at 7:55, I'm going to have a bowl of popcorn. That's not good for you.
Yeah.
They're with everything. There's a healthy and a responsible way to do it and an unhealthy and irresponsible way to do it. But I do down to my core believe that we don't need to eat. And even you know, 30 minutes of waking up, I personally, especially with the research of Dr. Longo, would say that you should wait, you know, and Dr. Sachin Panda, that you should wait an hour before you get up because your body's just that your body's not awake enough. You know, your body is still waking up, and, you know, to put food in it pretty quickly and say, okay, now digest this. It does better after about an hour waking up.
I want to look at their research even closer now, because now just because they're a name that I have heard about and whatnot doesn't mean I automatically will you know, trust their research. And that doesn't make sense to me physiologically. Your body's not awake enough. What does that mean? Like my body woke up on it. I haven't waken up to an alarm in forever. Like, I mean, my body doesn't.
The exception. Have you seen some of these zombies? Oh, I'm not gonna I'm not going to name names, but I had company over, and Mick and I were just kind of blown away at the amount of energy drinks that it took to wake these people up, and the amount of gummies that it took to put these people to sleep.
No judgment if you're listening, if you're one of those people.
Just because you can't, because you don't self-regulate, you can't, there's something going on.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of my patients my functional medicine patients, I give everyone, I make them do a 4-week caffeine and alcohol holiday. And I tell them, I'm like, I'm not against caffeine. The more and more I learn about alcohol, the more and more I'm like, I believe that there's zero benefit to it. And if you're going to drink it, it needs to be a rare exception. It shouldn't be a regular weekly thing, but that's we should do a whole episode about alcohol on another day, but caffeine, yeah, you and I love coffee. I mean, that's, love, but I make them go on a caffeine holiday, and it's crazy because it's a common thing that they'll come back and be like, once I got over the caffeine withdrawal, like I was surprised, like how much energy I had. I thought that the coffee was giving me energy, but really I'm not sure if I'm going to go back to it, because I'm like, well, I go back to coffee when I take a caffeine holiday because I like the taste of it, but I don't drink coffee because I need it. I drink it because I enjoy the taste of it. But yeah, the amount of energy drinks and gummies, yeah, that's the state of our world. 5-hour energy. And I mean, that industry is
booming.
The dollar industry. Yeah.
And it wasn't until Mick said something that the mummy that I am, the zombie that I am, Mick, he says, you see the number 9 on the clock and you're instantly about to fall asleep. And I'm like, 8:30, not 9. But it takes me, my latency's 5 minutes or less, and I sleep through the night. I wake up having to pee like a mofo because, I don't get up and pee. And then I snap out of bed, which, when you're married, sometimes your spouse doesn't want you to snap out of bed, but I can't help it. I see, the sunrise starting and I'm awake and I'm just like, let's go, coffee.
This is why you and I travel so well together.
I whenever people come visit, because you haven't yet, whenever people come visit, I'm always the first one up. Yeah, I'm the first one to sleep. I'm the first one up. I'm the first one ready to just like go exercise or to go take a walk. I mean, I've yet to, besides you here, I've yet to meet my match of somebody who gets up as early as me and starts the day and is ready to go. And it takes people a while to ramp up, and it takes them a while to wind down. And I'm like, gosh, not me. I am, knock on wood.
Yeah. Yesterday morning when I woke up, because Rachel rented an Airbnb that was across the street from the grandparents that had transplanted it from Michigan, right? And so all of them are slow to rise. So I woke up and I went and I walked 6 miles and get back and everyone's still asleep. I'm like, what the hell? And I go in and Rachel's still in bed. She's like, good morning. And then we go over to the grandparents' house and they're like, so did you get any steps in? I'm like, yeah, I've already gotten 12,000. They're like, really? I'm like, yeah. That's how I roll.
And I feel amazing doing that. And you guys, if you're a newer listener, I know I probably need to touch on this a little bit, but major birth defects in my feet. I was told I would be in a wheelchair by now, long ago, and I think the beach makes my feet stronger. I just feel so much more alive when I've had an active day. And then I've always been active, but there was a time frame when I was working out really hard, but when I was building a business, I wasn't moving much. And that's when I was in the 150s or the lower 150s. My weight was always like, 151, 153, 54. And it wasn't until I was like, you know what, I need to increase that step goal. I need to move more throughout the day and not just think my 30 to 45 minute workout is enough. And by doing that, I dropped 10 pounds, and I've been able to keep that 10 pounds off now for 2 years, just by moving more.
That NEAT is very, like, it's key. It is,
I think.
the episode that dropped today, which, this episode will be coming out the first Monday, April Fool's Day, actually. That I talked about the non-exercise activity being, I think it's the most important factor out of all of the non-negotiables that I make my weight loss patients have. Like it's almost 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. And I've already gotten 10,000 steps. I typically actually have more by this time. You're at almost 8,000. Yep. And we're for sure going to walk. I'm going to walk after dinner. I already walked after lunch.
I'm gonna walk here.
You still have more time. I'm Eastern Standard and you're Pacific, but yeah, there's just prioritizing that step count is key to keeping lean, I believe.
Mm-hmm. I do too. I've always, and I also think it helps you be a better sleeper. I think I can attribute my leanness to just being an active person, but also sleeping because I'm an active person. Kelly, I don't know if Kelly, my assistant, the wind beneath wings. I don't know if she listens to my podcast. Probably not. I keep her too busy. But she even noticed that when she sits and works and gets like 3,000 to 4,000 steps, she can't sleep. But when she's more active in hitting her steps, how much better she slept. So, that could be one key component. I would love for you and I to do a sleep podcast, but one key component to just, if you have trouble sleeping, try to increase just your activity throughout the day, not necessarily hard exercising, but just the fact that, are you standing right now?
I'm not standing. I thought about, I've got my walking pad, but I know that I'm going to be walking the rest of the day. So it's so pretty here today. Like it's perfect.
But just last time I sat and I wish I could show you my setup. I have my nightstand and then my laundry basket and then my computer in my bedroom. My track here, but I wanted to stand, and if it means that you have to look at my bedroom I can see the ocean, but it's good lighting. That's the way it's going to be. But just even those simple, decisions to stand when you can instead of sit.
I mean, this is the whole reason that I bought a walking pad while I was here in Florida. I was like, I'm not going to just, because I had the same kind of ghetto setup. I was like, I'll just stand. But I was like, no, I'm going to stand and move all day. So I got a walking pad for the 4 months that I'm here, and I'll probably sell it, in the last week before I go back.
Autograph it.
Yeah. Ain't nobody want my autograph. Promise you that. All right. Well, I think that we've bantered enough. Anything else you want to add before we wrap this up?
Nope. I just appreciate you. I always do. When you've got those friends that you've got the friends that are going to make you feel good no matter what. You've got the friends that are going to be honest with you no matter what. You've got the friends that are going to put you in your place if you need to be put in your place. And, we all have those different friends. I have all of those in Lauren. And I really truly appreciate that. There's just never a time that I don't think that I can't come to you and ask you a question or, it's nice that one of your best friends is a medical doctor. And I try not to take advantage of that. She knows that, but if something's going on, I know I'm going to get the hard truth instead of what I want to hear. If, I'm having, other relationship friend problems, she'll listen, she'll give me the hard truth. You did that with me the other day when you sent me that really cool story. And you said, I want your opinion on that. I appreciated that and tried to be honest with you. So have those people in life. You don't want just the ones that are always going to make you feel good. You want the ones that are always going to be real with you and honest with you, and maybe sometimes have to inadvertently hurt your feelings because you need to hear the hard truth. And that's just something I know that I haven't heard.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel essentially exactly the same way about you.
But mine will be in a softer package than yours.
Way softer. Way softer. You are way nicer than me. For sure. For sure. So I finished the podcast about Ozempic with saying something. I need to go back and listen and write it down because I really liked it. But it was something about like, I want to take you from only listening and actually taking action. Because ultimately, like, how many people do we know binge listen to podcast after podcast and are still stuck in the same place? And ultimately, like, that would be that would be the biggest gift for us as the host of this podcast, for you to actually take the information that we give you and take action and make a difference in your life. That is the biggest gift that you can give, right? And the worst thing that you could do is just listen and waste your life and not do any and take action. So I'm going to figure out how to cleverly put that in a saying that only takes 30 seconds instead of the 3-minute jargon that I just did. But until next episode, when I create that little saying, what's your saying again?
I hope that you wake up feeling prepared and that you go to bed feeling proud.
See, one-liner. That's what I need. Thanks, guys.
Have a great day. Wow, we've reached the end, but before we leave you, we'd love to hear from you. After all, it's not every day that someone reaches out and asks for your opinion, and to us, your opinion does matter.
Now, the content in this episode is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition.
Share this episode with anyone you think needs to hear this message. And please remember to do your part of the bargain by rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you listen to the Made Fitz show.
We are Melissa and Dr. Fitz, and until next time, thank you for your time, support, and action you take in your own health journey. You get one life. Let's live it abundantly together.